What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you on Lucid. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what is truly happening, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So currently it is down 4.34%, 30.54 million shares being traded, 35.4 is the average. Today there has been no news, no SEC filings, nothing like that. So it is just piggybacking off of the broader market. And right now the market is pulling back because of its overbought status. So Lucid is kind of getting the shit end of the stick, pardon my French, and that is because Lucid's technicals are quite the opposite to the broader market. The broader market, like I said, is overbought, kind of overdone somewhat. Lucid is very oversold. So stochastic is at 10. Despite it being very oversold, you do see a bearish sentiment, so red line above the black. So you kind of have just Lucid getting massively slammed. A lot of articles are coming out really warning investors about Lucid, especially considering Tesla has come out with their production numbers. They definitely did beat on a lot of fronts. Rivian, though, did show some signs of demand issues. That's just the market's interpretation, not mine. I still feel that Rivian is a good buy in my opinion. But beside the point, Lucid has always struggled with demand issues. So I think that's just a lot of people are now assuming the worst for the upcoming Q4 earnings, which has yet to be announced. Also, on a side note, Lucid has not announced their Q4 production and delivery numbers. Don't anticipate that until probably the tail end of January. But once again, that's just my own interpretation of that. I'll go over some of the data points and everything else, but I just wanted to play 1 minute of this quick video because it does put it in perspective on why the broader market is pulling back, but why it might not be all that bad of a situation.
We're seeing the futures under some pressure as we see bond yields rise. Give us a sense. How do you see the day ahead? What is your WEX word of the day?
Okay. Well, the WEX word of the day is overbought. And, this market, as we all know, has a big move towards the end of last year where the S&P up 15% since the October lows, small caps up 25%. And then we also saw yields come down a lot. Now yields, as you're seeing today, is flirting back with that 4% level. I will say, Frank, overbought is not necessarily a bad thing longer term. In fact, I'm going to tell you a pretty interesting study that we did. There's a momentum indicator. It's called the RSI, Relative Strength Index. So that's a fancy word for momentum. And it reached above 80 for only the 15th time since 1980. When we look back historically, a year later, when we have such a strong momentum signal, the market's up 13 out of 15 times. So that's a pretty good hit ratio. But on a short-term perspective, you tend to give some of that back, at least on like a 1 month outlook.
All right.
And there you have it. So that's why the broader market is pulling back. Some stocks more so than others because obviously a lot of other stocks in among themselves might be overbought, oversold. So obviously do your own due diligence. Talking on some data points, there has been no recent analyst ratings. A lot of the articles coming out about Lucid, like I mentioned, are very bearish. I don't really want to kind of bring up a lot of those, because in my opinion, I think a lot of us long investors already do know a lot of the negatives that kind of Lucid encumbers. So we'll just have to wait and see what the Q4 numbers do bring. Hopefully a lot better than what it has been. Based on shorts though, this is very abnormal because shorts right now are returning 1.18 million shares. So the way I interpret this information is with Lucid being red today and shorts returning some shares, it shows that maybe it might be unjustified. That potentially Lucid should not be in the threes right now because it is at $3 and whatever right now. So maybe that's a positive thing. But currently 23.9% of the free float's being shorted, 211.57 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 5.03%. Utilization is 87.87. And through Interactive Broker, short availability does indicate around 6.5 million shares available to be shorted. And I have been really watching what analysts are estimating for the upcoming Q4 earnings, and it looks like people are a little bit more negative on the revenue but more optimistic on the earnings per share. And you can kind of tell that based on the analyst forecast. So right now there is about 7 analysts with estimates, and they are assuming that it is going to be roughly negative 30 cents for the earnings per share, which is a improvement from the negative 31 cents. So analysts are a little bit more optimistic for that. But when it comes to revenue, it did go down. So it went from 194.29 million to 192 for the estimates. So let me know your thoughts on that. Options wise, so with right now about 30 minutes left into the trading day, $775,000 in calls being purchased versus 918 in puts. Looking sentiment wise, 53% of all the options activity is bullish. Of the call options that are being purchased, it is anticipated for it to be above 450. So we'll just have to wait and see how that does turn out. Looking at puts, it is anticipated, oddly enough, to be below $3.50. So a very big sell-off. Next couple days, so Thursday and Friday, there is data coming out linked to consumers. And if those do show signs of cracking, then the broader market is going to react very, very negatively. And then over and above that, looking right here, these are some of the transactions that have occurred on the secondary market above $100,000. So you do see one transaction for 1.02 million, but today is kind of mixed. So you see some transactions of buys, some sells. So institutions behind the scenes don't really know whether they should be loading up on Lucid and that it's a value play, or it might be continuing to go down, because based on the technicals right now, with it at $3.99, it is between this S3 and this S2. So $3.92 is going to be that next strong support that you'll want to watch for it to hold. Vice versa, 405. I feel like right now it's kind of flirting with that somewhat. So I would really consider the S1 being the next strong resistance. So that is going to be at 414, and it kind of bounced off of that today roughly. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What have you been doing with Lucid behind the scenes? As well, some of you do really like the Elliott wave, and based on what has happened over the last several days, a lot of this has just broken down, because it does show the pivot point being $4.68. Assuming it does stay below that, then it is anticipated to go anywhere between $2.95 and $3.25 in the short term. So once again, not necessarily the best. You have to hope for very good numbers for Q4, but who knows? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And even though Lucid is going down wherever the hell it wants to go, take advantage of free promos, and that is with Moomoo. This promo has been extended up until January the 15th. Sign up for an account with Moomoo, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of that. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.